And she's like, oh, you mean lies? Thank you, finally.
Oh no, I didn't mean to do that. And it's like, no, babe, you walked into the lion's den.
Hello, Pierpoint freaks. We are back. Welcome back to And Just Like Yap. I am Andy.
I'm Caroline.
Oh boy, episode 7. We are at the penultimate episode of season 4. I can't believe we're here already, and yet I feel, as I always feel when we're getting toward the end of a series we cover, like I have aged 1,000 years.
One could say that.
Let's get into it. Episode starts, and we immediately have Veritas Quo by Daft Punk playing, and we realize we are back at, as you said last week, Virginia Woolf headquarters.
Yep.
Ooh, and Yaz is having a look at this crazy letter that Whitney gave Henry, and Henry is like, you knew, because Yaz has been trying to warn him. She didn't have any specifics, but she was told by Harper to get out, and she was trying to warn Henry. So now, of course, Henry is flipping it back on her and is like, you knew, and you should have told me, and you should have been more specific and more aggressive, because it's her fault. And she was like, no, I didn't know, but like, it's no secret I didn't like him. He was in our house practically swallowing you. Again, Henry is just off the rails and has absolutely no grace at all for Yaz, and is like, you're the one who got me into this. You didn't give me enough warning. You know, you think you would have, like, let me know that I was going to be in a horrible, compromising position that you put me in. My guy, this woman basically dug you out of your own grave. Yeah. And she finally is like, stop speaking to me that way. So this just kind of gives us a clue of like, we know things have been bad in their marriage, but behind closed doors.
I also had a thought in this scene, the way he was talking to her. I was like, is he sort of planting evidence to like try and escape culpability as much as he can to put it on Yaz and like reframe the narrative?
Yeah, because everybody's doing that in this episode.
Yeah, it's a game of hot potato.
Yeah, I mean, the whole title of the episode is Points of Emphasis, which is a euphemism for lies that Yaz says. And of course, Henry then, this is the thing that's like so frustrating about this man, is that he is in one breath abusive to Yasmin and like taking everything out on her, and then in the next breath is like clinging on to her for dear life and wouldn't know what to do without her. Such a toxic place to be in if you are married to somebody like this. And he's like on his knees holding her like, what the fuck am I gonna do? Doesn't give a shit about her.
Well, because this is like the culture he was raised into, where he's been given everything. So now this man is responsible for anything in his life, and now is likely going to prison, likely going to jail. He's freaked out because there's no get out of Dodge plan for Henry.
Poor Yasmin. Don't you bet she wishes she was in California, high on shrooms, getting railed by Robert Spearing in a modest but still very, very nice, like, $1 million condo. She couldn't have just done that.
Yaz would never have been happy there either. She would have, drove off the PCH. Like, it would have been very bad. This is, I think what is frustrating here for her as we, get into this scene a little bit more is, she thought there was more to the Henry shell, and we're realizing it was, to quote another Netflix show, a house of cards is what she married into, because she thought that this was going to elevate her to this other point, and now she's sort of realizing she's going to have to go back to square one.
Yeah, I think she thought that he was more malleable than he is. Only to a point can you shape who this man is and how he's going to be to you. Basically, Yaz is trying to analyze this letter like it's, an AP Lit essay, and is like, what does he mean that you're implicated? And Henry's like, I mean, this whole thing reads like a psycho manifesto, but basically he's saying that even though I'm not guilty and didn't know anything about this, I will not be spared jail time. Which, this is very Succession. Somebody ends up having to go down and take the blame.
Yeah, well, and he was always going to be that guy. He was the face. It was Henry, my guy. Luckily, unfortunately, you're in the bubble. You've been in the bubble.
Yaz is trying to do damage control here of okay, we're both going to lose our jobs. The stock we have in Tender is useless, but we're rich still, right? Where's the rest of it? Where's the rest of the money? And she questions Henry and is like, nobody could possibly do that much heroin. You still have a nose on your face, so you haven't snorted it. Where is the money? And this is the saddest. Oh, this man. Oh, this stupid man
I know.
put what I'm assuming basically is all of the rest of their money in tender stock, which is crashing currently. Oh my God, my guy, why do you make such bad decisions?
It's just because has this weird naivety thing where he, like, wants to be the knight in shining armor and think, like, he's doing the right thing, and he wants desperately to divorce himself from who he is, and it's like, you just...
He's also a man of extremes, you know? He's not just gonna put some of his money in tender. He's gonna put all of it in tender.
Yeah.
And also, a peek into this, Yaz didn't know where the money was. She has no control over...
Yeah.
They're married, and she's pulling a lot of strings. She's not pulling that one. Henry then is like, why are we even talking about money? It's my image. Like, my morality is now going to be publicly questioned once again. And Yaz has a total meltdown and is like, how can you fucking give a shit about the press release when we are going to be left with no home, no money, no future? Like, how could you possibly care about what your image is?
Tinder is paying for the house. Like, and also I'm like thinking about the reveal of the cameras and stuff. I would then wonder, are there cameras in the house?
Oh, definitely. Oh, 1,000% there are cameras in the house. As soon as we learned last episode that Whitney was renting the house for them, I was like, that man gets home from the office.
Unwinds
on the couch and puts on his favorite TV show, which is watching Yaz and Henry do this and then have sex.
The Real Housewives of the upper elite.
It's his own private reality show, Tender House. He's just continuing to, like, verbally assault Yasmin and is like, nobody cares how you come out of this. I care about how I come out of this because I want to be better. I want to be a good person. And then this was really revealing. He says, I'm a good person and the world shall tell that back to me. That is this man's ultimate goal in his life, is to have other people validate that he is not a bad person, which is, I think, the dark place that a lot of people operate from. Not that they want to be a good person, that they want to be perceived as a good person.
I'm kind of shocked at this point they haven't had Henry, like, do anything on social media to, like, do videos and stuff like that to have people, like, follow. You know what I mean? That just feels like something this character would be like, well, now I gotta, like, talk to my people, and they, like, build up his ego. It just feels like there's, like, such a crack in his being that he needs that sort of external validation.
He absolutely loses it and screams right directly in Yaz's face that if I'm not going to be a good person, then what am I for? And the acting in this is incredible. You can feel in your gut, like when she says, oh my God, like I literally had like chills. And you can see in this moment that something just breaks within Yaz. Yeah. You can almost like hear glass shattering. There's quiet, Henry sort of breathing heavily and realizing like how much he has spun out. And Yasmin very, very weirdly, instead of screaming back at him, instead of like almost hitting him the way she did in his birthday episode, she just sort of melts and concedes and is like, you're right. Of course, I'm so sorry. And as a viewer, you're like, wait, really? Like, this isn't the Yasmin I know.
What I think also is here, this was probably a tactic she used with her dad when he was abusing her. Oh. And I think when you're dealing with that kind of abuse, it's like you either can fight back, but like when you feel like that's not working, the only thing you can do is fold, because that's how you get them to end that sort of moment. So I think that's like sometimes the safest thing you can do to protect yourself is to fold in and say, I'm sorry, even though you didn't have anything wrong to do in the situation. This is unfortunately the tactic that you have to do to protect yourself.
Yeah, you're like, I want this moment to be over because I'm in pain. Yeah. God, again, another incredible acting moment from Marisa Abella. And we get an incredible, like, music edit, like, quick off, like, right when the actual lyrics to that song start. And we realize we're still in the same spot. Henry has fallen asleep. Oh, man, he's probably drooling all over her chest. And she has not slept, eyes wide open, just like staring at the ceiling. And this is where my wheels started to turn of like, Yaz is a fighter. She's been up all night thinking about how she's gonna like resolve this. We cut to Stern Tao, or rather just Stern now, and we're still in the hotel room. So I guess that either Eric is one of his like agreements in leaving was gonna keep footing the bill, or
maybe they're finishing out the month was what I was thinking, because he might have already paid for the month.
It turns out that Tender has rallied a little bit. The share price is up 10%. This shot I loved because Quabbin is saying to Harper, like, if they don't actually go through with this new audit, we're dead in the water. And so Harper says, we need to figure out how we're going to catalyze the audit because that will kill them. And this shot is so amazing because Harper is there, and in the spot where Eric would be, usually right next to her, we just see his empty room, his empty bed. We have Sweet Pea piping up to be like, hey, what would Eric's take be on that? Which is just heartbreaking to undermine Harper right now. That being said, though, you kind of need Eric balancing Harper out. It's weird, but like Harper kind of needs Eric to be weirdly her moral center.
Yeah, and it's like Eric's had like decades upon decades of experience more than Harper. So it's like he's able to be like, hey, we have to rein it in a little bit because of like XYZ. But I also know that like Eric tried to tell her you're capable of this, and that's frustrating again as a woman, not just a woman, a black woman, like having to feel like you're constantly sort of like second guess that we need the opinion of a man to sort of validate your decision making. And and this happens in finance all the time, as it is a very male dominated industry to begin with.
We head back to Tender, and Whitney is back. I assumed at the end of the last episode when he's, getting in the elevator, switching out his SIM card, I was like, oh, he's leaving. Like, he's out. But he came back, so I'm unclear on why exactly.
Yeah, and there's also, like, an interesting shot, too, establishing shot of the two of them sort of, like, playing, like, bully, like, with each other across from, like, both of their offices. It was, like, who's going to come into whose office first? Because it's, like, Henry's now finally questioning Whitney, and like Whitney like no, so it's like who was gonna be the first one to move, like in a game of chess.
And Henry was like, I'm not doing it, like you're coming into my office. And I just love this. I feel like I'm in the room with a reptile. And Henry's like, why shouldn't I go to the authorities? I thought about doing it all night. And Whitney's like, you already know why you didn't go, or you would have gone. And Henry is like, I am an accomplice because I am the face of the company. And unfortunately, in this kind of situation, even though he had no idea, like, you can bet that Whitney made sure along the way that Henry's fingerprints were on everything. So he's not going to be able to claim that he didn't know. And Whitney he has never directly admitted that he has done anything illegal with Tender. This is the first time we hear it coming out of Whitney's mouth. First time he's like fraud, embezzlement, market manipulation. And Henry is asking the question that all of us are asking, like, why would you even write me the letter? And the reasons that Whitney gives are that he wouldn't want Henry going AWOL now while everything's like chaotic, basically threatening him from leaving. And Whitney is like unusually calm and is saying like, look, Tender 2.0 is working. We're actually earning enough money now that we are covering up these quote unquote flaws. Well, there's enough money coming in now that like it'll all be hidden. It'll all just be tucked in and you won't see like how much illegal stuff we did.
I wrote in my notes, I was like, this man could talk his way out of a paper bag. Like the way that he's able to just sort of like spin this delusion out of nowhere. It's just like, it's honestly impressive because it's like, where is this even coming from in your mind? And he's able to just like, make it all make sense in his head.
I know. I never ever want to encounter a person like this in real life. This scares me so much.
And unfortunately, they're out there and they don't show.
And I thought that choosing a life in the arts would spare me from some of this, but they're everywhere.
Some might say the worst snakes are hiding in the arts.
Yeah, that's true. Talks his way out of it. Like, this is the exact shit that you would find in some, like, awful, like, how to do business book written by a fucking imbecile.
Yeah.
It's just the gap between the velocity of my vision and the velocity of regulation. And he says that gap is where smart people have been making money forever. And the thing is, he's not wrong. Like, it's a delusional way of thinking, but this is why, like, all the time you hear about shit like this happening with companies, and you're like, man, like, why do people, like, do shit like this? And you're like, because everybody thinks that as long as they don't get caught, they're living in that gap between reality and what they want to be true.
Because it's like they do like a little bit, and it's like they're able to get away with that much. So then they're like, okay, I can do a little bit more. And then they keep going, and the cycle just, you know, as someone who's experienced this, it's like a very wild thing when you discover the depths of like how far people can go. Because I think it's not like people are inherently evil and wanting this. It's just like the system is bad, and it encourages the bad behavior and allows them to continue to like roll through that further.
So Whitney's like, here's what we're gonna do. Again, calm as a fucking serial killer. He's like, we're just gonna drag this out as long as possible, and we're gonna do that with a targeted acquisition. All of our overrepresented cash flows will just be swallowed into the bigger picture of this. Again, we just tuck all the lies neatly in, and nobody knows. So he says we're going to do a hostile takeover of Pierpoint. And this actually happened on Succession. A hostile takeover is when you buy so many shares in a company that now you own it. Against the wishes of the C-suite of that company. And he was like, you actually gave me the idea. Like, when we were doing this whole deal with Pierpoint, you said we should, like, as a gesture of good faith, like, buy more stock in Pierpoint. So I used Cayman and Luxembourg SPVs. Did you want to talk about
I was going to say, like, basically just, like, the fact that they're doing stuff, like, in Cayman and Luxembourg, a lot of their laws are a bit more... like they flax, which is why you hear a lot of, they're like, oh, they have bank accounts at the Cayman Islands. This gray area where people can just sort of get their money away with it. Art is a big thing for that too. If you want to like see how people hide their money, like buying like expensive art is where they do that also. Yeah,
and the actual definition of SPV is special purpose vehicle. So, you know, a cute little extra company that you put money in and it buys stuff and separates it from you, to like limit your risk. So he's basically saying like Al Mirage actually doesn't want Pierpoint anymore. Like they bought them and they've been trying to get rid of them ever since they bought the old bitch. He's like, so now that you fired my sexy auditor who I was buttering up, we gotta get new auditors. We have to add intermediaries, add complexity. This is like, it's just so funny listening to this and being like, it just sounds so stupid. Like the basics of all of these business strategies are just like, make it complicated and foggy so people can't tell what it is. And I'm like, well, if you told me that, like, I guess I could have gotten an econ degree and did this. Doesn't sound that hard. Yeah, and Henry is like, I have no idea what to do with myself. I don't even know what to do with myself. Do I do what you want me to do? Do I not do what you want me to do? I don't know. I'm just sitting here. It's amazing I have a shirt on.
I know. His facial expressions this whole scene are so... Kit Harington does such a great job of just like, how did I get here? What did I...
The range of that man to play somebody as capable as Jon Snow and then somebody as hapless as Henry Muck, like...
it's great. And you know what? Great use of his butt in both shows. So I have
incredible.
To say...
And Whitney's just like, just believe in us one more time. One last ride. Oh, my God. We cut to, like, you know, some political debate show. And this fucking weasel telling Lisa Dern that Tender's numbers are about as real as a stripper's affection. And she says, oh, yeah, I'm sure, like, that's the kind of thing that the Andrew Tate clones and bots that like all your posts would say. My take on Andrew Tate was that he was like the British Joe Rogan. Is that...
I had no idea who this man was until like 2 years ago. Like I refused to be around this. But basically, he was a boxer and then gained a lot of notoriety for promoting variously highly controversial positions in the manosphere. But as of March 2025, he's facing 6 legal investigations, 4 criminal and 2 civil in Romania. I think why I originally heard about him because he was subject to an extradition request for rape charges in 2024. So there's a Joe Rogan for everyone. I guess Joe Rogan doesn't have rape allegations against him. That's the bar that we're at, everybody.
Jesus. I can't even. And this guy keeps prodding and is like, you were in bed with Tender senior management. That's why they got their banking license expedited. And the person hosting the show is like, that's a pretty serious allegation that you're making against the minister. Meanwhile, Yaz is listening to all of this, and she texts her buddy Jennifer Bevan, who works with Lisa, and is like, if you need any help, aka remember all my connections to the press? And Yaz immediately of course, gets on the horn to Alexander because she's making moves. She stayed up all night with her husband draped across her like a fucking sad towel. And now she's ready to make some moves. So now we're back at 10 Downing Street, which is the UK version of the White House. Ricky Martin with a Y, not where you think it's going to be. Chief of Staff is basically having a shouting match with Lisa, and then Jennifer's just off to the side, cowering like a deer in headlights. And Lisa's like, the Prime Minister very obviously wanted us to expedite all of this stuff with tender. Like, you're blaming it on me, but like, it was very clearly what we were asked to do. And she also keeps saying, like, I'm tired of hearing from the Prime Minister that, like, we're losing business deals to other countries. Like, we have to, like, make the UK look like it's, like, cool with enterprise. And then this line I felt was significant. She was like, just because we won by a sandcastle majority, aka, like, you know, we won, but not by a large enough margin to really feel like Labour has a stable, permanent place in the Prime Minister's office, doesn't mean that he has to act like a shit-scared Kremlinite, obviously, like, you know, somebody who's loyal to the Russian government. So shit-scared Kremlinite, I think, just works on a lot of levels in the show, as we will see. And Ricky Martin's not having it. He's like, someone's got to go down for this. The PM is going to want a fucking name. Like, we're out for blood here, because you're not going to blame this on the Prime Minister. Like, one of you is probably going to have to be taken to task for this. Jennifer thanks Lisa for not immediately just throwing her to the wolves. And Lisa's like, oh, hon, listen, how many times are you on the record going to tender?
Exactly.
How many times were you socializing with the Mucks and they were picking up the bill? I wasn't there. So, like, someone's head's going to be in the guillotine. And when push comes to shove, it's probably not going to be mine. Oh, Lisa.
My girl, I love her so much. Lisa is such a bitch, and I know. We loved her speech, you know, that was like their thesis statement on America last week, and I love bitches, and I've really loved her more and more as the season has gone on, and I'm curious to see where it's going to come full circle for her.
Jennifer immediately gets back on the horn with Yaz and is like, okay, yeah. Set me up with those tabloids. Like, she's panicking now and is like, I gotta figure it out. I mean, this is the thing. This character, I, like, haven't loved the character of Jennifer Bevan. Like, she is very Shiv Roy coded, but she doesn't have the, like, teeth and grit that Shiv Roy has. And, like, this is not at all criticism of this actress. I think she's doing a great job.
No.
I don't think we are supposed to like this character. I think she is an example of, like, a gutless public servant who says that they have principles and, you know, are part of, like, a liberal party in government, and then immediately at the first chance they get, like, gets in bed with rich aristocracy who are linked to the press and, like, the worst form of the press.
She's like the Henry in the government.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, she's like, oh, but I was just doing these things to get ahead. But it's like, babe, this has much further implications upon that. You should have thought twice about this. And instead of being, you know, the new government darling and being swept up into them choosing you, the wolves came after you for a reason.
Yeah. The other thing, too, though, is the excuse of, like, well, this is what everybody does.
Yeah.
It doesn't work for women as often as it works for men. I'm sorry, babe. We see that Lord Norton is actually at Yaz's tender house, and Yaz is like, okay, we're gonna start shaping the narrative to put the blame on the quote-unquote correct people, aka not us. We're gonna start to try and preserve ourselves. And she's like, Labour's relationship with Halberstram predates mine by about, like, 2 minutes. And then Lord Norton jumps in to be like, do you mind me asking, like, is your marriage still a nightmare? And Yaz is like, yeah. It is.
Yeah.
And she says what we've been saying this whole time. The highs are very high, but the lows are very, very low. She admits, I think this is a strategic move on Yaz's part, but it's also just the truth. I think she's tired of covering up for Henry, and she knows where Norton's, like, lines in the sand are. It's not just that he's an alcoholic. Like, he uses cocaine, he uses heroin, and he uses it often, which really seems to affect Lord Norton, probably because of his brother, Henry's father. We are back at tender. We're at this, and Henry announces that he wants to do the hostile takeover. This guy!
I know.
My guy, my sweet spring chicken.
The one man with a backbone. The one man with a backbone at the table.
What are you even doing here? Like, you're not in the right place. You need to go find like an NGO. And he's like, I don't know why we're not prioritizing an audit. Like, there's no skeletons in the closet, right? We got nothing to hide. I don't understand. And of course, Whitney now is like, Henry, wasn't this your idea? Tell how hard you lobbied as our fearless leader.
I love the way, so they're like across the table from each other,
yes.
the way that they've staged this. So it's like we're getting this face-off between the two of them, but showing the distance between the two of them, because we start to see he's treating Whitney like how he was treating Yaz last episode. You know, that intimacy is gone. Now there's a table between the two of them.
Yeah, both of their personalities have shifted quite a bit. Whitney went from kind of mysterious to like, well, you know the truth now and I'm just going to lay it bare. Henry, this is so interesting because you're like, what is he going to do? Is he just going to play along?
I know.
And he chooses, I'm going to do it, but I'm going to say it in like a, I don't want to be saying this way because Mom told me I had to say it. Like, and it's like, my guy, that's a really weak move.
And it's like, okay, that's the best you got?
And then evil Lord Farquaad here is like, the hostile takeover will be good. It'll show people that, like, even though, like, Tender's in a weird position, like, we don't run. And then this will be relevant. He looks directly at Whitney and says, running is not an option.
Mm-hmm. Spoken from Cozy Bear itself.
We're on the Tender PJ, and this, I took the screenshot because, again, God, this show is playing three-dimensional chess. I love it. Henry's like, do you ever get off your phone? Like, it's such a crutch. And Whitney says, if you ever see me without it, you can assume I'm dead. Again, keep it in mind.
Well, yeah,
coming up later.
Because it's like, it's a matter of not if, but when is Whitney, this identity, going to die? Like, is it going to die this episode? Is it going to die next episode? Like, we don't know.
And Henry is like, Yaz was telling me that you may have some explicit recordings of us, because as we know, Haley informed Yaz somewhere in that room in Austria there was a camera hiding behind, you know, an urn of Adolf Hitler's ashes or whatever.
I don't understand how people have this much time to be evil. Like, it just takes up a lot of brain space, and I'm like, there's already a lot going on. Like, I gotta figure out what to make for dinner every day, like, and all these other things. I'm like, how do you have time to be this evil?
I gotta make sure I pay my credit card bill on time. I don't have time to learn how to set up a hidden camera in someone's house. Like, oh my God. And Whitney, of course, is like, I mean, my guy, do you think I'm capable of that? Yes. Answered your question. Like,
well, also, to me, it felt like Whitney was trying to get him to say it out loud, because I was thinking, I was like, is Whitney trying to record him?
I feel like Whitney has like servers and servers worth of,
true,
like, just in case anybody crosses him.
Well, I was like, to get him to admit that he slept with Haley, and then he has that evidence, like, out
very
loud.
likely.
That was like what I was thinking.
Oh yeah, no, definitely, for sure. Again, like, there is no point in this episode where two characters are having like a fully, until the end with Yaz and Harper, nobody's having a transparent conversation. Everybody has an angle. Whitney gets on the horn with Wilhelmina from Pierpoint, and Whitney's like, I'm hearing that, you know, Al Mirage is trying to sell you guys, and she's like, yeah, and they're pricing us to go. He makes Henry get on the phone and give another forced line reading of Al Mirage never loved you. Basically, throughout this conversation with Wilhelmina, he's like, you guys are about to have your annual general meeting, like, cede the floor to me, even though I'm just like not that big a deal at Pierpoint. Like, let me talk at the annual general meeting. And she's like, why? And he was like, well, we're holding quite a bit of stock. Also, like, I could just like spread a bunch of rumors that like aren't true, but if I say them at the annual general meeting, like, they might as well be true. Again, big theme in the show. If you say something, it may as well be true. And Wilhelmina's like, okay, I was just trying to put my face on, and now you're telling me you want to declare a hostile take. Don't interrupt a woman while she's trying to do her face, okay? It's a meditative process. It helps us focus.
She's trying to get into a REM cycle. Come on.
Yeah. She's trying to reach a flow state with her mascara. Leave her alone. And he's like, I'm going to offer a premium. So he's basically saying, like, yeah, we want to do a hostile takeover, but I'm going to give you a better price than what Al Mirage has you priced at. So Jennifer Bevan is there, and they're like, just sit in the chair and listen. You don't have to do anything. You're not, like, guilty of anything yet.
Before this, too, there was, like, the walk-in of Yaz with the guy that runs this paper, and he's like, sorry how we covered your old man. And she's like, well, he's a bastard. So it was, like, interesting to know that they were the ones, I think, probably publishing all this stuff that we talked about in, like, season 3 and 2.
Oh, yeah. Well, part of the reason why Yaz chose Henry was not only because of, like, his wealth and position.
Right.
It was because of Lord Norton, and Lord Norton basically saying, if you become my daughter-in-law, I will make it so we can control the narrative of what happened with your dad. Because she was up shit's creek at that point.
Yep.
Jennifer Bevan comes in and they're like, you just sit in the chair, sweetie. Like, you don't have to say anything that will implicate you. Like, we'll just talk. And Lord Norton is like, hey, you know, Lisa Dern's like already talking to the press. She's already kind of positioning herself to be the adult in the room here, which who knows if that's true or not. Again, doesn't matter. Sweet Jennifer Bevan, she keeps making these decisions and then being like, but I don't want to do anything bad. She's like, well, Lisa was always the cautious one. Like, that's actually not the right story, that like Lisa's in charge of this. Like, it was my fault. And Yaz is like, no, that's not how we lie. That's not, let me show you. That's not how we lie. And then Kevin, who looks like the Christopher Lloyd villain in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Judge Doom.
Also, who was his name? A Democratic pundit who's like bald.
James Carville. And again, Jennifer Bevan is like, I don't understand. It was my fault. And they're like, shut up. And Yaz is like, I'm not going to tell anybody it was your fault. And Judge Doom here is like, okay, we need like one little tiny piece of evidence, like memos, minutes, documents, something that can overstate the fact that it was really all Lisa and like you were the one who was like, no, Tender's bad. And she's like, oh, you mean lies? Thank you, finally.
Oh no, I didn't mean to do that. And it's like, no, babe, you walked into the lion's den.
Yeah.
Like, you knew what you were getting into. Like, either you got to push the lie further, or you have to make a decision now. Am I wanting to get ahead, or am I wanting to follow the sword? And like...
Right, yeah. And like, you can't have both. Yeah, imagine trying to be friends with somebody like this.
This is Housewives. This is Housewives 101.
It is. It's true. And Yaz is like, that lies. Points of emphasis. This is unfortunately where Yaz steps most fully into her power, is like, oh, I can be in charge of just like spinning a web of lies. Great.
She learned from her father, unfortunately.
Yeah.
This is Charles Hanani 101. It's like, unfortunately, she may have not gotten any money or anything from him, but she learned how to manipulate.
She fucking hates the guy, but he had a pretty long run of lying and getting away with it. And all of a sudden, Jennifer Bevan decides that she does have some moral fiber and is like, journalism shouldn't be about myth-making. I don't want to move forward with this. And like, our Lex Luthor over here is like, what did you think was going to happen when you came here? That we were all just going to like, I don't know, have tea and be like, oh, poor Jennifer. Like, what did you think?
Here's the hot goss that we have on Prince William and Kate, if you want to like read about it. Like, no, girl, you don't get to know about Rose by just walking in here. That's Kate's best friend that everyone thinks Prince William cheated on her with. Anyways,
no. Oh, William, why? So she leaves and is like, this isn't on record. We're not doing this. When you walked into this office, you already sold your soul. Yeah. Like, you had to give your voice to Ursula to cross the threshold. Like, sorry.
Totally. And it's like, you can't say off the record at the end. If anyone learned anything from the infamous Gilmore Girls episode, when Lorelai is getting the interview about the end, and she starts telling all these stories about Emily, and Rory has to tell her, you said off the record, right? You always say off the record at the beginning.
And see, Jennifer Bevan leaves, but they're like, well, it doesn't matter that she doesn't want to. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to find something, or the idea that there's a memo, pick it up, make it pop. And Yaz has the idea of like, it would actually even lower our risk if we plant that seed with another journalistic outlet and we're just leaking what they have. I mean, this is similar, like Henry's reactions to Whitney so far in this episode are like, who thinks like that? Like, who just finds a way to spin things and weasel out of them rather than like owning up to it? Your wife, babe.
I mean,
your way.
That and people who work at a tabloid, because they're not about. That's why like TMZ grosses me out so much, because they are the vultures circling everything. They don't care. They'll take whatever crumb and go with it for a profit.
Yeah. And Lord Norton's like, well, ideally it would be an investigative outlet. And Yaz starts to get like really into it. She's like, maybe we can make this like a full-fledged career ender. And Lord Norton is like, please don't sound so excited about this. Like, this is very, very bleak. I mean, Lord Norton's so funny to me because like he wants to seem like he has some sort of moral center. And it's like, you sit at the top of a tabloid empire.
He seems like he's on the right side right now, but I kind of feel like it's all going to backfire next week.
Yeah. And then, oh God, like the most evil man in the world. Like before we even met him in this episode, people were like, oh yeah, Kevin, like Kevin's the guy for this. He's pretty toxic and evil. And imagine Yaz leaves the room and he's like in awe of her. He's like, hard fucking bird, and then has a little chuckle about it.
He's gonna get like a picture of like Yaz and put it in a locket because he's like, wow, is that my match? I love Yaz. My evil queen.
Oh my God. Yaz found her next husband.
I know.
Yaz shows up on Harper's doorstep and Harper's like, what the hell? Yaz asks Harper if she's lonely because she's alone today. And Harper says, always. Man, there's something about Harper's ownership of being lonely and not making it like a negative thing that I've said this in previous episodes. It really resonated with me at the most hermited part of my life to be like, I'm not ashamed. I'm by myself and I don't always love it, but I don't care.
But I think it's another thing about her being a Black woman. It's like she is inherently lonely as like there's no one else like her in this
that's
universe.
That's so right, yeah.
So I think it's like ultimately is always going to be Team Harper at the end of the day because no one else is going to worry about Team Harper.
Yaz starts to try to spin her yarn to Harper and is like, actually, like, Jennifer and Lisa, I'm told, have been in the Norton offices all morning trying to, like, spin their stories. Harper is like, if I'm remembering correctly, like, wasn't Bevan at Henry's 40th? And Yaz lies and says, yep, at Dern's request. That's not true. And then she's like, and then there was the memo. And Harper's like, what are you talking about? And she's like, there was a report that, like, the government should be wary of Tender. Like, there was an investigation and the report said, like, not a good idea, and it was suppressed at a ministerial level. Like, Lisa tried to cover it up. This could lead to, like, a government-mandated audit into Tender, which is what you wanted, Harper. And Harper, if you watch her face this whole time, you can kind of tell, like, she knows Yaz isn't telling her the truth.
She sees through it immediately.
She says, like, out with it. Like, what do you actually want from me here? And Yaz is like, I'm planning my escape. I am going to frame myself as I was the lone dissenting voice in the company. Because of one conversation I had with my husband, like yesterday. And Harper's like, well, that's not true, is it? And she's like, doesn't matter. Our interests finally align. You and I are actually on the same page. Like, help me help you.
The Haley piece of, like, all of the hookers and stuff like that Whitney's, like, hired that we found out in the last episode. It's interesting that that's not where Yaz is going because then that implicates what she and Henry did with Haley. So it's, like, interesting how that big reveal is not the ultimate catalyst that Yaz is working with.
I was surprised about that too. I'm hoping that we do get to see some of that because I want to see Haley and Yaz join forces in that way. And Yaz continues to try to convince her, like, listen, the share price isn't going to tank itself, which that's what you need to make all of this money. And then we see immediately Harper is peddling the story. Again, this is so crazy. None of it's real. There's no memo, but it doesn't even matter. She's talking to Burgess. They're having a pint together, and she's like, there's been talk of, like, this memo, and Yasmin, who ran their comms, was saying, like, she told everybody, like, this doesn't look good, and she was completely ignored. Harper is also protecting Yaz in this. She tries to, like, further influence of, like, listen, the public's money's tied up in this. Like, the government's involved. And Burgess is like, your face does something weird when it looks like you're trying to convince yourself that you actually care about the morality of this. Burgess doesn't know Harper very well, but he's been around long enough to be like, you don't actually give a shit about this. You stand to hugely profit off of this. And she tries to go for the emotional angle of, like, this would be a good opportunity for you to carry Jim's torch.
Especially because at the beginning of this, he talks about how he was at Jim's wake. and was like, that was like how the conversation started. And it's just like this weird morose thing hanging over everything.
And Burgess is like, don't do that. That's so fucking gross that you're gonna like try and influence me with that. He's devastated. He's like, it's just the saddest thing, like the unfulfilled potential of Jim.
I mean, it's even like you can think about Rishi. Rishi was also unfulfilled potential. Like there's a lot of these characters that are like Eric last week, unfulfilled potential. Like we got like, you know, he had one day of it. They're all just crushed by this industry.
Okay, so something is going bump in the night in the hotel room next to Henry's when they're in New York for the annual general meeting of Pierpoint, and it is Whitney packing up to abandon his life. Yeah. He's got his Lithuanian passport, but as he is leaving, he is grabbed by the scruff of his neck by somebody we don't know yet, and Henry sees him being led away because he heard some like rustling. He comes out of his hotel room and is like, what the fuck is going on? I don't understand why he didn't just escape when we saw him at the end of last episode. If he was, maybe he was doing some sort of like escape dress rehearsal. Like I'm unclear, but he made the mistake of connecting to airport Wi-Fi by accident, and it turns out the person in the front seat is none other than evil Lord Farquaad himself, Ferdinand, and is like, oh, you really thought you were going to just send $120,000 to Sunpath Living Residential Solutions, aka like, you know, the fixer in Japan who was going to like try and anonymize you and basically like put you through their own version of witness protection. It's basically like in Breaking Bad, the guy at the vacuum cleaner store. You pay people and they disappear you. And this is where we hear Ferdinand say that Tender remains a very useful data set. So this whole time you're like, why Tender? Are they just trying to like make a lot of money? Like these like, you know, Russian surveillance that's controlling the situation? It's data. They want data, they want information, and they need to keep dragging it out a little longer so that they can keep having data and keep getting information. And it wasn't about money.
No, and did you recognize the man who yanked Whitney?
Yes. We're going to get there in 1 second.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, so how does this work? Like, when the company dies, you're going to kill me too? And Ferdinand's like, oh no, absolutely not. You're gonna be the public face of it dying and you're not gonna implicate me at all. He wanted to do with Whitney what Whitney wants to do with Henry.
Yep.
And yes, this guy in the car says, you no longer exist outside their tolerance. So like, sorry, we're getting to the point where like the evil people in charge that we haven't even seen yet, like don't care about you anymore. So like you will be punished.
You are the puppet for the puppet.
And it turns out this guy,
like we thought,
is this guy. So yeah, like we thought, the fentanyl-laced cocaine that killed Jim Diker came from this guy who has been working with Ferdinand. I thought it was Whitney who had orchestrated Jim Diker's death, but that came from above Whitney. Tender buying Pierpoint gives us new data. Beautiful data. Tender's beautiful. Tender's perfect. You have to keep peddling the story, and says you are world class at this performance. So now we finally see the truth here. Yeah. The reason why Whitney feels like a fabrication is because he is. They basically are like, you are going to perform the exact type of CEO we want. You are going to make all of the business decisions that we tell you to make and act like they are yours. I don't know what they have on Whitney or like how he got into this originally. I would be very, very curious to see if we actually find that out, because
I know.
Yes, now he's doing it because they're threatening his life, but like, how did he get here to begin with? We are back at 10 Downing Street, and Ricky Martin has come into Lisa's office and is like, hey, the Finn Digest piece that ran overnight is implicating you as the chief architect of Tender's relationship with the government. And he hands her the pre-published tabloid that is going to run tomorrow, that the minister is going to resign because of her involvement with Tender. And he's like, look, you introduced Henry at Web Horizon. You did your photo op with him. It looks bad. And there's also this memo, this suppressed memo. And Lisa's like, they say sources claim on here because you know it's not real. And the thing is, Ricky Martin doesn't fucking care, because Ricky Martin and Lisa hate each other. And so this is, again, another moment in this show where, like, it's just convenient for this guy that Lisa is going down. So he is going to do whatever he can to expedite that, because he's like, nope, that's actually what I wanted. So, like, let's push it further in that direction. Lisa's like, you know that this is what the Prime Minister wanted. Do you not recall that meeting about their banking licenses where you waltzed in at the end and basically threatened me with, like, a newspaper article about, like, Jennifer being the next face of UK government? And Ricky Martin's like, doesn't matter. You're gonna have to resign. And here is where she says, acquit yourself of your charge, for I have long been prepared, which she then has to explain for Ricky that this is an Anne Boleyn quote.
So basically this quote is what she said before she was guillotined. So Anne was the second wife. So as we remember from the musical Six, divorced, beheaded, died.
And Lisa's like, okay, fine. I will take some responsibility for this and I'll think about resigning. And Ricky's like, no, you will resign. And it will be on the Prime Minister's desk. He leaves. She gets angry and, angrily, like, pushes stuff off her desk, including this red box, which is, like, a ministerial box. I looked this up. This is, like, a thing that, like, all people who work in the UK government get as, like, their little box to carry all their, like, legal sensitive documents. We are at the annual general meeting of Pierpoint, and Whitney is unusually not himself, and because he thought he wasn't going to be here. He didn't prepare for this because he was planning to become a stranger in Lithuania at this point. And Henry has to be the one to be like, you need to fucking snap out of it, dude. Like, you need to buck up and do the thing that you do. Like, get up there. This is the plan.
Eric gave the pep talk to Harper last week before the speech of, like, don't blow this. So it's, like, interesting the tactics that they have to use to, like, pump the person up. So it's like he has to stroke Whitney's ego to get him to be the Whitney that we all know.
Yep.
So it's, like, very interesting to see the two dichotomies of that.
Yeah, these two do a lot of stroking. Wilhelmina, as planned, is like, anybody have any questions? And then waits an unusually long time for Whitney to raise his hand. And is like, right, that guy, Halberstram, get up. We think that Whitney is faltering because he's sort of, like, teetering around. He doesn't sound very confident, and he says, I don't have a question, and we think it's all over. And he says, I have an offer. And our offer is 1.9 times book, so meaning like 90% higher than the current share price is valued at. Random guy in the crowd, shareholder in the crowd, is like, your stock is too volatile. Like, why would that be a good deal?
Yeah.
And Whitney just starts doing what he does. And of course he says, fake news. Like, people have been saying from the jump that, like, we're too good to be true and, like, our stock is volatile, whatever. And this guy's like, he's just spinning more bullshit. All Mirage guy at the front breaks rank and is like, hey, chill out. We got to hear this guy out. If you remember, Haley mentioned that she had to get an Al Mirage guy into a room, so we can assume that this man is being blackmailed by Whitney. Whitney goes into this, like, crazy speech that is all a bunch of, like, vague platitudes, makes no sense.
We want speed, we want scale, we want certainty, we want America.
Yeah, it's basically just like a Top Gun quote and like a 4th of July song. Like, it doesn't make any sense. He gets some applause. A cover of, like, Heroes by David Bowie plays. So we think, like, maybe he stuck the landing. Lord Norton gives Yaz a call and is like, it's not too late to kill the story coming out tomorrow. Like, the company's gonna die and Henry is not going to be able to survive this. Like, are we sure this is how we best love him? Remember, like, last week or 2 weeks ago, Henry was like, I don't know how to love you best. Of, like, Lord Norton is asking that question of, like, is this really caring for him? And Yaz says, this little boy has had no consequences his entire life. So, like, at some point the other shoe is going to have to drop, and, like, why not have it be now? Which is true. I do agree that, like, this might be the best way to protect him, but we also know ultimately Yaz is not planning on protecting him. She's planning on protecting herself because she hasn't even told Henry that this is happening. Lord Norton agrees with her and says, all right, yeah, you're right. We have done everything we can for him. And hearing that parroted back to her, like what she just said to Lord Norton, realizing, like, oh shit, he agrees with me. This is actually happening. Yeah. She bursts into tears and gets off the phone. Lord Norton is crying. Like, these two do feel bad about what they're about to do because they know that it's going to ruin his life.
Well, because it's like, I don't know if you've, like, dealt with anyone, like, extensively, like, with addiction, but it's, like, this hard thing when you, like, are on the cycle with them. It's, like, how much longer can you prop them up? How long do we continue this for? Like, it's just not tenable.
We're back on the jet. Henry is clarifying. The Almirage guy, like, you're blackmailing him, right? Whitney's like, yep, he used to date Haley. Date. That's a ridiculous way of saying that. This Lisa Dern article comes out, which, of course, Whitney has, like, a negative reaction to. Henry then checks his phone and is like, oh, shit, I have an email from, like, crazy Kevin at the tabloid, like, asking me to respond to claims before publication. And Whitney's like, you didn't do that? Like, that's Norton Media. You didn't do that? And he's also like, Henry, calm down. Like, this isn't what we're focusing on. We're focusing on Pierpoint. Again, Whitney doesn't really care at this point. He's just trying to keep this story afloat because he's trying to pass the buck off to Henry because he's still trying to plan his escape. And Henry's like, you can't just make shit up and just say that it's real. And it's like, Henry, that's what's been happening this whole episode, and unfortunately you can. Whitney is like, you can't control your emotions because you're a fucking child, not because this man has, like, horrible mental illness. The phone on the jet's not working, he's flipping out, having a tantrum.
Which I had a theory, I was like, did Whitney cut off the phones, like, before they got, that was like...
Could have. Jennifer gets a bouquet from Lisa with this note. It's been beautiful to watch you flourish, you Tory, aka, like... You're not really a progressive Labor Party person. You're in bed with all of these wealthy conservative aristocrats, and they are speeding along your career, so fuck you, bye. Henry storms into the office, and he can't find Whitney after the jet, and he's like, who the fuck are you? And it's like, I'm the temp. I've been sat here this whole time. And he's like, I can't find my wife. I can't find Henry. And he's like, oh, your wife resigned. Henry has no idea. This poor man. Mm-hmm. He looks completely devastated. So we see on Bloomberg that Tender is now under the microscope because of everything happening with Lisa. Meanwhile, the call that Whitney had been waiting for from Wilhelmina from Pierpoint actually comes to Henry because Wilhelmina thinks that Whitney is scary and awful. And she's like, hey, I hate to break this to you, but, like, we were never actually considering, like, letting you do a hostile takeover. Like, we were just letting Whitney do that so that we could jack up the sale to Temasek that's already been in the works. We just wanted them to see that, you know, it's like when you go out with somebody in front of your ex to be like, look, someone else loves me. Yeah.
or a new guy that you like. You're like, look, I'm wanted. So if you want this, you got to make a better claim.
This iconic. We see that our queen Wilhelmina. This is how little she cares about, like, ruining this man's life. She's in the middle of having her quick McDonald's lunch, slurping on her soda and chowing down.
Which I was trying to figure out, is this the same order that Trump has?
I don't think so, only because it's not 3 sandwiches. It's just
the
one.
He does Big Mac, I think, I was like looking
Big Mac, filet of fish, and quarter pounder. And, like, listen, I love McDonald's. I really do. You can't put those 3 together. That's not a good idea. Wilhelmina's getting her quick working lunch in. We love a queen who loves McDonald's. She's like, also, by the way, that whole thing about, like, Whitney, like, buying up more Pierpoint stock, like, through these SVPs, like, that was a lie. Like, I looked into it. There's no record of any of that. And she says, snake oil and sermon sound similar, don't they? Like, okay, Taylor Swift. Like, the lyricism of that.
It just shows, like, how... there's, like, a razor thin's edge between, like, something you can feel so emboldened by, but actually has, like, such nefarious tendencies underneath. Like, it's so thin between the two.
We love snake oil. Snake oil is, like, a big religion of the population. I mean, like, apple cider vinegar, that shit doesn't do as much shit as we say it does. But...
No.
We love snake oil.
And protein everyone loves. I'm sorry, protein doesn't need to be in my popcorn. I hate to say it, Chloe.
It doesn't need to be in my popcorn. No. It doesn't need to be in my coffee. Chipotle keeps rebranding of, like, now with more protein. It's like, it's the same thing. Chipotle always had protein in it. What are you talking about? Yeah, so, and Wilhelmina twists the knife further and is like, by the way, remember that whole deal where, like, you know, if your share price drops below a certain point, you got to pay us back money. We're going to be pursuing that fully so that we don't suffer the consequences. Best of luck, bye. Henry starts to call Whitney, and guess what? Remember when Whitney said, if I don't have this phone with me, you can assume I'm dead? I don't know if he's actually dead. I don't know if he's just now in Lithuania, but there's his phone. It's ringing. Henry's calling, and he's holding the phone in his hand. Whitney gone. Whitney's gone. Jennifer's on the horn with Yaz. Yaz is like, good for you that, the Prime Minister wants you to be the face of this thing. And she's like, Yaz then making moves. She's like, give me a call later and we can talk about how, like, I can be your head of comms. Trying to get a job by being like, hey, bitch, I did this for you even though you asked me not to. Jennifer's pissed. She was like, you have no fucking right to, get me off scot-free here. And Yaz is like, the right people will survive, aka the people that I handpicked to survive in this situation. And she's like, you knew what you were doing when you took that meeting. Yeah. Like, sorry, I know you said off the record, but it was after you had already said a bunch of shit. So, and Yaz is like, I'm a good friend to you. Look at all I did for you. And Jennifer says, this has been a marriage of convenience, which I'm sure you know a lot about. Ooh, babe. And Yaz is like, you don't know anything about my marriage. And she's like, I know that you've just deserted an addict to his ruin. Yaz flips out, screams at her phone. We're back at Stern headquarters and they're finding out that, like, big story in the tabloids, like, the things are in motion. And Sweet Pea's like, yep, the government is already, like, saying that we need a skilled person to review tender. Kwabana's like, the stock is indicating that it's going to open down 77%. So they're like, it's time. Like, it's time to get out of this short with our huge bag of money. And Sweet Pea's like, show me dollars. Show me the money. Okay, now we get my favorite part of the episode. I'm sure you also love this part of the episode.
Oh, yeah.
Yaz and Harper at the bar, and they are being the most raw and real with each other that we have ever seen them be. They are not fighting with each other. They are, like, admitting their faults on their own without the other one having to point them out to them. And Yaz says, you used to make me feel very alone, and now you're the only person in the world I don't feel alone around, which was just such powerful writing. And Yaz is like, isn't this just the best for you, though? Like, you're on top and I'm on the bottom. Isn't this kind of what you always wanted? And Harper's like, yeah. And Yaz is like, well, thanks for being honest about it. This is, again, like, another one of these moments of, like, it's toxic, but this is girlhood to me. Like, a woman admitting she's jealous of another woman that she's, like, been in competition with. And she's like, I'm so jealous of you because you're smart and you're tenacious and you're powerful and you have this command and autonomy and I'm so fucking soft. Again, these are words that you would hear Harper saying, Yasmin, you're so fucking soft. But instead, they're not throwing daggers at each other. They're just, like, being honest for the first time about who they actually are. And Harper, on that note, is like, I would give anything to live a day in your body, the body of, like, a classically beautiful white woman who doors just open for because I'm a classically beautiful white woman. And she said, I really resented you for being a breathing example that I was less. And right as this is happening, we get another Enya song.
Only the one that we had before, from like several episodes ago.
Oh yeah. Because we had Orinoco Flow as well. So Only Time starts playing, and again, like, the lyrics of that, like, who can say where this is all going? Similar to, like, Veritas Quo of, like, to what end? Where are we going? And I love this. They start holding hands, and Yaz says, I choose to love you for being a breathing example of how I can be more. Ugh.
I know.
Again, these women are committing insider trading together, which is very bad, and they've been very, very awful to each other. They've slapped each other in the face, but I love it. I love it.
It just makes me nervous because I'm like, what's going to happen after? I think that's, like, what... There's, like, a whole sense of the last, like, 10 minutes of the episode. It almost feels, like, dreamlike in a way. Because it's kind of like, what's really happening? Is this really happening? We're in this, like, weird moment of, like, it's like the end of the first tape of Titanic where it's like the bow's about to break, we're about to hit the iceberg. So it's like, okay, we can enjoy this for a second, but, like, it's really, shit is about to be very bad and, like, very soon. It's like we can enjoy that they have all this money from them being right about Tinder, but, like, we still have one more episode. Like, what's going to happen?
And, like, Harper is also guilty of crimes. So, Yasmin says, I just want to be necessary. I've never been necessary. And we have seen that. Like, she's been tossed around, especially by powerful men in her life. And Harper's like, I don't know where, like, my command comes from. Like, is it because, like, I can say, like, you know, you were never at anyone's mercy? And this just broke me. Yaz starts crying, and she said, I guess I kind of grew up at someone's mercy, because we know at this point that she was abused by her father and had a very unhappy childhood in that regard. And this was just devastating. And then, of course, the classic thing you say after saying the most devastating thing you've ever said, do you want to go out?
Yeah.
And she's like, let's do all the stuff that Lord sings about. And Harper's like, Lord sings about being 17. And Yasmin is like, exactly. Like, let's regress. Like, let's do it. Let's fully regress.
Because that was probably the last time that, like, Yaz felt any sort of freedom for herself.
Yeah.
Like, she was the last time that she was able to sort of, you know, not have to acknowledge the consequences of, like, how she was raised and, like, the influence of her, you know, and all the, like, implications that has continued to play out in, like, the rest of her life. Like, that was the last time that Yaz maybe got to be Yaz. She's had to, like, fall into this, like, from a very young age.
Absolutely. Yaz is like, will you look after me tonight? Harper's like, well, when the fuck are you going to look after me? And Yaz says, tonight. And then our girls are out. This is, like, Marnie and Hannah, like, is the iconic...
That. Well, it's also a mirror of the episode before of Henry and Whitney. So it's like, now we're getting this version of that.
Yeah. They are just, like, dancing. They're probably drunk and on drugs. They have this, like, very, like, motherly, like, Madonna and child, like, Harper kissing Yaz's head. They also kiss, but it's not, like, sexual. It's, like, just this very sort of, like, loving, I don't know. I mean, they're probably both on ecstasy, but, like, there's something, like, beautiful about these two women just, like, feeling very, like, free and alive and, like, loving on each other.
Man, it's really funny. Like, the craziest scenes that have happened on TV this year have been in the club. The Heated Rivalry Club scene, if you know, you know. They even posted a TikTok about it, and I was like, yeah, this is very Shane and Elia coded as well. It's just...
I mean, I remember, I never did, like, drugs in college, but, like, I remember being super drunk and dancing to, honestly, probably Daft Punk in college and being like, I'm gonna live forever!
I mean, the back room of Holiday Club. We were there.
Oh, yeah.
I remember it was rare I was there. I remember it all too well. Like, it was, anything could happen back there.
Yeah, you just feel like you're gonna live forever, which then, of course, Harper is like, I feel amazing. And they're, like, on the fucking sidewalk smoking cigarettes, like, about to reach the point in the night where you, like, get burritos, throw up, and go to bed. And I love this. Yaz is like, yeah, we're here forever, even if we can't be. Which is the perfect encapsulation of what it's like to forget your cares for a night, get drunk or high, and just, like, pretend that you can live in this, like, liminal happy space forever, even though you know you can't.
We know that the shit is about to hit the fan very quickly soon, so this is the little pocket of time we get. And also, the chain link fence that they will be revisiting and I'm manifesting at some point in the next season.
Yeah.
These two, orange suit by orange suit. That chain link fence.
We're going to jail. Someone's going to jail. Anyway, that's the end of this episode. Once again, so much going on. Looks like next week for our finale, we are in for a wild ride.
Doozy. It's the largest cast, I think they've said, for any of the episodes, including Charles Hanani is in there. So I'm assuming we're getting a flashback of some kind.
Anyway, thank you for all for riding through these episodes like the line on a share chart, whatever the fuck they call it. I don't know. We love you all. We will be back soon. Bye bye.
Bye.